Gal Adams, A.K.A Captain Spish. She knew I helped dogs and saved their lives. That's confidence and strength in the dog world.
Teach me, oh wise one.
Because nothing learns through punishment. It learns through reward. And a lot of times I'm dealing with dogs no one else will help.
Oh my.
Every dog should have these basic skills.
Yeah, I mean, trust seems like the biggest step for any of this.
You defeat the energy. You pop that bubble of anxiety. We know you're scared. Here's what you do about your fear. That's true power in the dog world. So, welcome back to another episode of Captain Spish Dog Behavior. I'm Captain Spish.
Obviously. And first mate T.Tommy here, as always.
Yeah.
And I am Kimberly AF, and I run the Bull Terrier Freak AF Facebook page, YouTube channel, Instagram, and TikTok.
TikTok, right? Yeah, don't forget TikTok.
So.
I've been very popular on TikTok recently. It's treated me very well. It's easier to get ahead. It's almost like Facebook 2009, before the algorithm went nuts, where you didn't have to pay for advertising. You just spread like wildfire. It's not even that good, actually. TikTok's still slower than that was, but that's neither here nor there. So this episode, we're going to speak about puppies, since I feel that I have something valuable to share with that, and Kimberly definitely does. She's raised and bred puppies and gets puppy fever, something I've never had, but maybe you can start with that. What is that?
You have puppy fever for the first 10 minutes they're home, and then you're like, all right, I'm done. What have I got?
That's probably what it is. It breaks quick on me.
Yep.
Yeah, I tell all clients that most puppies, but especially bull terriers, you're gonna at some point ask yourself, "What the f have I got myself into?" And if you haven't reached that point, you haven't owned. You've been spoiled, no matter what the breed, but especially if it's a bull terrier.
Yeah,
I've had clients tell me I've had 2 bull terriers, and they were like easy to almost self potty trained, and like just were so sweet and gentle and playful and goofy. I was like, you lucky bastards. Most people, it's a trial by fire. They have to learn how to laugh instead of just cry and be mad.
Yeah. I always tell people, it doesn't matter if it's your first bull terrier puppy or your sticks. You're going to reach a point in puppyhood where you just are going to want to sit in the corner, curled up in the fetal position, and just rock back and forth and say,
but you can't do that because the puppy will jump on you and tear your hair out.
Exactly. You're gonna want to.
I just have this image of her doing that, and the puppy just like nuzzling, like, what's wrong with you? Like,
oh no, it's not a nuzzle, it's a face back.
No, I've never had a bull terrier. I've only ever had beagles, red tick coonhounds, or blue tick coonhounds. I'm sorry. Those are the dogs that I've ever only had experience with, and most of the time they're outside, even as a puppy and whatnot.
Yeah.
So bull terriers, like
with hounds, that's also a good tactic.
Oh yeah,
that's where they belong technically.
That's what they're supposed to be. So
yeah,
with bull terriers, is like raising really sweet, adorable velociraptors. Just without the claw toes, they don't need it. They have the crushing jaws.
So I have a lot of experience in like raising kids. Like I helped raise my nephew. We had family friends that had huge families that I helped take care of their kids when I was a kid, and having a bull terrier puppy is extremely similar to taking on an actual child. Like my sister, and when we were growing up as kids and we had puppies, I don't ever remember any of our puppies being like that. Like my sister's toy poodle puppy, when she lived at home, was never that like that. Her bulldog puppy was never like that. But with bull terrier puppies, it is very, very much like raising a human child.
The type of intellect, like they look for, it's almost like they look for trouble, but I won't say that necessarily because I think they're more innocent than that. They have their impulses and curiosities, and they're highly observant. So they're trying to pick at everything and mess with everything, and they want to put it in their mouth just like a toddler.
Yep.
They really are exploratory and
busy.
So you're very, very busy, and so if people just aren't ready for the constant maintenance and attention, and they're not ready for the think ahead. I think like the Bull Terrier, like, oh, if I were them, I'd pick on that corner over there, and that paper is going to be in my mouth. It's like puppy proofing is on a whole nother level with them, I feel. But let's talk about puppy proofing a bit. So what do you do at your home for puppy proofing, or do you do any puppy proofing?
I do very similar to like what we were talking, well, what you were saying earlier about just
for the show.
Preventing, really. Just kind of, I do a lot of, I hate to use this, but I don't really know what else to call it, but kind of almost like a crate rotate situation, except like I have baby gates in literally every doorway almost in my house. I have a baby gate in my kitchen, baby gate in bedrooms, bathroom, everything, and it's constant, kind of rearranging puppies
zones
from room to room, as we go along, depending on their energy. My kitchen is kind of like the safest puppy-proof area, so if the puppy's being like exceptionally naughty, it's, you're gated out there for a while until you can, your energy lowers a little bit, and then, back into the living room with the adult dogs, or vice versa. It's like if the adult dogs are kind of like, I'm done with this and they can't take a puppy anymore, then the adult dogs go out into the kitchen, and the puppy, we can do stuff in the living room. And a lot of it is just about kind of preventing, not only to prevent them from doing things, but also because it just kind of saves your sanity. It saves you from, messing up and making a mistake and getting really, really angry and frustrated at something that could have just as easily been prevented by not allowing them to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I bring up with clients all the time. The rule of monitoring tolerance. So you have to monitor how thin your tolerance is getting. You have to watch how thin the other participants, which would be children, adults, other dogs. Who else is wearing thins? As an adult in the dog world, in my opinion, as an adult and as a leader, that's one of your main jobs is to maintain the peace and the mentality of the group, which means you have to monitor absolutely everyone and not forget about yourself, to make sure no one's buttons are being too pushed and everyone knows they're supported and listened to, so no one feels the need to take a job that isn't theirs and police and control another. And then, and you don't, I think it's the biggest mistake you can make with your puppy is going off the handle or pushing yourself too far, and letting the puppy push you too far. And I tell clients all the time, stop, be silent, breathe, calmly bring the puppy somewhere else. If you can make it do something for you, like sit or tap your hand or any kind of behavior, because I tell people whatever you put in the crate gets stronger. So I want an obedient, calm dog that's looked to me and knows and connects with me to get stronger in the crate. So that's what I try to get the most out of them, is be calmer, look to me the best you can, and do something for me, even if it's just being calmer. Sometimes that's the trick. And go in the crate, and I need a second to remember you're just an innocent dog and not trying, that you don't know I have buttons yet, and I don't want you to learn I do.
Yep.
Those buttons should be protected. But our whole life revolves around dogs so much that the entire house is forethought about dogs and what they could get into. Not as, but like when we get a puppy in, it's going to go a little bit further, because there's definitely some things that I wouldn't have out for a puppy, like certain wires and little things. But that'd be easy to deal with, because adult dogs usually won't mess with those things. But I still predict that adult dogs might hurt themselves and stuff. And once again, another reason why, knock on wood, I haven't had a $4,000 zipper surgery yet. I've had broken bone surgeries, 2 of them.
Ooh.
Have you ever had your Bull Terrier break their leg?
So far, I have not had any broken bones or emergency surgeries. I did have, with Clarence's mom, she gobbled up a cat toy one morning, but we were able to get her to throw it up, thank God.
I think I remember that.
But that's,
is that Nichols? Was it Nichols' Clarence mom, or is it
Druid?
Druid there, that's right.
Yep.
I get them confused, even though I kind of know who they are. That's me in names, though. I'm just
I mean, you were telling me that at the beginning that you're terrible at names.
No matter how much I care and try, I can't remember. If I'm not around you at least once a month and talk to you, your name's going to get confused with someone else's name. I'll remember your face and the details of who you are, but that's it.
Okay, but seriously, how confused can you be on her name? It's literally Kimberly AF.
I can be confused. I can be confused AF. That's
confused.
Kind of
that's what you be.
I know so many Kimberlys, and so most Kimberlys wind up being my friends or someone I care about. So it just gets very confusing. I have a lot of patterns in my life like that. But anyway, so puppy proofing. You do zones. Mm-hmm. For your puppy proofing, where you make sure that the particular rooms, and that's smart for the average person, I think. Not saying you're average, but to make sure you take at least a room you're going to spend the most time with that puppy and make it as clean and controlled as possible. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't like baby gates much for myself, but I have used them a lot more in recent years. With more and more dogs you have in the house, that's just the better choice.
Yeah.
They have zones to block and rotate. But I like the puppy on a leash, and that leash is in my hand, and I monitor the puppy all the time. And with that, I also will either keep old versions of things like remotes, cell phones, USB cables, underwear, magazines, things I don't care about. I obviously don't want the dog to eat and hurt themselves on, but something I don't have to panic. I can take my time to take away if they put a few dents in or cracks. Yep. And leave it out and teach them how to avoid and leave it alone. And when
this
they
is
leave
why
it
my
alone,
house looks the way that it does.
Yeah, and when you leave that alone, then I'll give you something similar, something that crunches like that remote or chews like this item. So.
Yeah, I've found with Bull Terriers, texture of items plays a big role in what they go after.
Each one has a favorite. Coben likes paper and cardboard.
Yeah.
And if he can crunch it into bits, that's why he eats so many sticks. I worry about obstruction from that, but he hasn't yet.
Thank goodness.
So is that a common trait with primarily like Bull Terrier puppies and whatnot? Like they all have like their shtick, their fondness for one particular item or texture, you said?
I don't know if all of them do, but it definitely seems to be a fairly common thing.
Well, I would imagine she would probably know more because obviously she's had, plenty in her time and whatnot. So, I mean, is that something that you see?
With all of mine,
often?
it's kind of been that way. I mean, they won't avoid other items. They'll go after everything, but then at the same time, it's a lot harder if they have a favorite texture. It's a lot harder to get them to leave something of that texture alone, even, past puppy stage. My oldest, Caesar, he had this thing for earplugs, and anything that has the texture of an earplug.
Oh, do you mean like the spongy ones? Like
foamy.
Okay, yeah, like had those at the factory I used to work at.
Not these.
When he was younger, he used to steal those from my husband all the time, and you wouldn't even see him. You'd just find him in his poop. His poop would be sprinkled in these.
Well, something like that, just grump.
Yeah, these colorful little earplugs, orange and green and yellow. You'd be like, what the fuck did you do? What are you doing?
Fortunately, I wouldn't think that would pose much of a blockage hazard, depending on the dog's intestines. I would be more concerned about the chemicals of it, but once again, who knows?
I mean, if they don't block out the sounds in your ears, they ain't gonna block out the dog. I mean, it's not like they ever worked.
How many decibels does a Bull Terrier butt have? And how many earplugs does it take to solve that? I don't know. You don't have to worry about the decibels as much as other pressure, but so.
Well, there was one time where he was like my first Bull Terrier that I had for long, and one time I let him out to go potty, and he pooped out a whole plastic trash bag.
Wow!
What?
That was lucky.
Whole. There was it wasn't shredded at all. I'm like,
not even a tooth mark, right?
No, I didn't see. Well, I didn't hold it up and pick it apart, but
yeah,
wow.
See, I would have, but that goes back to what we were talking about, my origin stories, and we're not getting into that, right?
And I just could not figure out how he got that. And he was the one that really taught me how to be extremely mindful of everything around my house and what dogs can get.
Bull Terriers will get you closer to enlightenment. Be aware, be self-aware.
Yeah.
Everything is fair game and can fit in their mouth, you know. See, my experience with Bull Terrier puppies, like my experience with most dog breeds and dogs in general, is pretty skewed, because being a behavior expert for the majority of my entire adult life, most of the Bull Terriers and puppies I've raised were owner surrenders. So they already had extreme either bad habits and or syndromes or behavioral issues. So Mimo was one of my craziest Bull Terriers. I'd love to jump on dogs and would be aggressive kind of with new dogs, but that's because he wanted to control and not dominate, obviously, but to control and to monitor and police. And I used that to my advantage, and he wound up being like my right hand in the back of the van when I go pick up dogs and work with them at my pack therapy. He would monitor the mentality, and he would correct the dogs I would correct, and just the right way. And if dogs got into fights, he would grab a hold of the one that was the right one and peel him off the other dog and leave slobber on him, but he wouldn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And the dogs respected him. A lot of them would come up and pay homage and lick him in the face, and he was very well loved with the pack because he saved dogs that were afraid. If a dog was really scared and trying to bite at dogs and keep them back, he would do the same, like block off the rest of the pack and then lay down with his back facing the scared dog and be a barrier and let the dog acclimate.
Aww.
So he was really, really amazing. And, you know, he didn't get like that until after I told him, "You're my boy and you're going to stay with us forever." And there's something switched. Like, you know, something makes me believe that dogs understand, if not language, they certainly understand the implication. Yeah. And his whole personality changed from that literal moment on when I told him that. And that was after I lost Hero, because I was kind of looking for a home for him before that. But he was great. You know, I lost him in 2022. Lymphoma took him. I know you're kind of struggling with some form of cancer with your pup too.
So
it sucks. Yeah. And Tazzy, our old pit bull's 15 now. She's kidney failure, and I think it's advancing enough where she literally in the last 2 days is having incontinence issues more, like really bad, like pooping frequently, like more than she would in a day, and not being able to control it and having anxiety, panting, looking at us. And I think she has dementia started too.
Yeah.
She just stares off in the distance and doesn't take voice commands as well. So I'm not sure how much long she has. But, so going from puppies to old dogs. But yeah, so I just have to, with the puppies, I just have to watch out for their behavior issues that I knew. So it's kind of what I'm coming to you to talk about more normal puppies. So what's your first concern when you have a puppy, when it first comes in your home, like, or even beforehand?
I personally, as somebody, I actually focus more on, like, there's a lot of people who I see that tend to focus on obedience stuff when they bring their puppies home, things like sit and down and things like that. I tend to focus more on manners and learning how to communicate with me and how to just how to live and exist in the space without having to do something, because especially with Bull Terriers being extremely busy-minded as puppies. I mean, even Clarence, even though he was literally born and raised here, he still has trouble wanting to settle down. When he gets bored, when we're done with our activities for the day, he's just looking for something to do. And I have to keep, take this toy instead, take this toy instead, take this toy instead. Leave everything alone, leave the walls alone, leave the couch alone, leave everything alone. And so for me with puppies, my very first thing is just definitely working on teaching them to exist in the space without having to do something. And that can take a really long time with Bull Terrier puppies.
Well, there's so much they have to learn. they have to learn to manage themselves, to accept the amount of activity they're given, to know how to be silent and peaceful. See, to me, all of what you're describing is what I teach clients all the time as well, and it's something I touched on about in the didn't we have an episode about training versus behavior?
Yes. Training versus behavior.
And you know that there's a difference, and the difference is that to me, behavior work, in a nutshell, is understanding the dog, accepting who they are, helping adapt who they are, which is what we're talking about. Adapting who they are is you're really busy. You need to be a little less busy and know how to redirect your busyness to appropriate things, what's inappropriate, what's not. So much foundation work. And to me, training is what you build on top of behavior work. And behavior work is the stable mind in yourself as the handler, then a stable mind and a stable way of communication between you and the dog, and knowing expectations. So not just the dog knowing your expectations, but you knowing your dog's expectations and needs, and adapting to each individual, and not being rigid, and knowing that each individual is going to make you relearn, like, this individual needs to be communicated this way with this intensity for these reasons. And so it's you learning a whole new individual and them learning you, and you grow and blend together. It's like brake pads seating into a rotor. They form each other.
Well, to me, it sounds an awful lot like what she was saying. Like, it's like raising a kid from the beginning and whatnot. I mean, you've got to establish everything, routine, and all
programming. It's all you.
And a lot of raising with puppies is, I don't think people really understand this, or at least it's not talked about enough, in my opinion. But with
that's what we're here for.
You raise them in almost like tiers. You raise them in because at 8 weeks, an 8-week-old puppy is not mentally capable of grasping the same things that you would teach, a 6-month-old puppy or a 5-month-old puppy.
It's a whole different thing,
When you're raising a puppy, if you can look at it in slices like that, like, okay, well, we want to get here when they're an adult dog, but they're not capable of grasping that yet. So we have to start at the first tier in what they are capable of grasping.
That's why I like the building analogy. You have to bring in the building materials. You have to be familiar with each one. You have to mix the concrete just right, and you have to know how to do that. And then you have to make sure you dig the footings right. And there's so much detail to it. So I think when I use that analogy, I think of all these things, but my clients may not get it. Now I'm thinking about that. Because most people haven't built a house, and I've not built a whole house, but I study these things, at least, because I'm fascinated with engineering and so on. But all the little pre-work, the study first, the planning, the blueprints, and then the reality of problems in the field. So you may have this plan that would, in theory, work, but you have these little hiccups, and there's more bedrock down there, or there's a water line going through that wasn't mapped, and it's a problem solving and adjusting is a big part of the whole thing. But so you're building the foundation, you're building the elements that come into the foundation and everything else, and then you have the layers of just the house and the functionality of that. And they're equally complicated and equally important, but you can't build a house without first building foundation, and you can't build a foundation without doing research and having some rudimentary, at least, understanding first. I know you can do a lot of learning on the job, but that's like someone laughing back there.
God, cat.
I was gonna say, it sounded like the cat was getting into something over there. Is what it sounded like.
I don't know what he's doing. He was raised by bull terriers. He's a very strange cat.
This is Gumball. Yeah. You like Cartoon Network shows like I do. I'm a big cartoon fan, and my wife is too. So what was the recent name you came up with? And Clarence, duh. Yeah, Clarence's name is from the cartoon Clarence. It's one of my, when I first saw that, I was like, I'm not going to watch this. This kid looks annoying and kind of dumb.
See, y'all make those references, and I remember the Cartoon Network of old.
Oh, I do that too. I mean, I'm older than you.
Yeah, but
Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and Dexter's Lab, which is an antique now, basically, and
so good.
Blues Foster the imaginary thing is old too now compared to.
Well, I mean, it's still newer though.
It is new.
We're talking like the original What a Cartoon, Powerpuff Girls,
but
Meat Jam. And
Two
Clarence is
Stupid
10 years
Dogs.
old now.
Two Stupid Dogs
Oh, wow.
was a great one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How did I forget that one?
I don't know. You're the dog guy.
I was always offended with I think I was always offended by the name. I was like, I've known very few stupid dogs, but I've certainly known a lot of stupid people. But this is offensive. This makes no sense. But anyway, those were pretty stupid dogs, though. But Clarence the cartoon was great though, because I was like, I'm not gonna watch this. This kid looks annoying and dumb. But I started watching. I was like, this kid's awesome. He's weird. He's funny. He's intelligent. Intelligent in a way that most people wouldn't think of as intelligence, because he's obviously kind of dumb in some ways.
Yeah.
But that's just innocence, so it's a perfect Bull Terrier name because they're just like him. They think outside the box. They surprise you. They'll ruin your house. They probably mostly talk with the lisp, I would imagine, if they could talk.
Right.
And this is forever optimistic and making friends and very engaging. So
it's like between the two of you, it's like I'm simultaneously afraid and intrigued to ever own a Bull Terrier. It's like
that's exactly where
you should be.
At the same time.
You should be scared, excited, and worried if you think about having a Bull Terrier, because those are appropriate feelings. Those things bring about good intelligence for you to think and understand what you're getting yourself into.
Right. Yeah. No, not in my apartment. Absolutely not.
Bull Terriers plus apartment typically would be not a good thing, in my opinion. I mean, it can be done, but you better have God level experience of behavior to deal with that.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Environment has a big impact, as we know, on behavior and of course training as well. But something about being that close to other living beings and in an apartment situation makes most dogs very stressed in my experience. It totally impacts their behavior. Like Mimo, I got him from a family who lived in a house, but they're renting, and they're on a corner in the West Carrollton, and their neighbors were just so close to them, and the kind of neighbors they had were loud and obnoxious and kind of semi-violent. And Mimo was just so sensitive that he was just really ramped up and nervous and scared. So he was jumping up and biting at his owners because he was frustrated and nervous and scared. And he kind of has hyperarousal syndrome, like Coben, just not as bad. And he was biting at him, and they were being punitive, like punishing him and being defensive and fighting back. And I told him, well, that's like hitting a basketball that's bouncing up at you and expecting it to stay down. You're adding energy to it. It's amplifying it. It's coming back at you, and you're being mad at the basketball, and you're the one in control of that bounce. You have to grab the ball and take energy from it and let it down, and it may come back again. But you keep doing that. You redirect. You calm. That's why I talk about monitoring your own self and your energy, because you're the dog's world, and you have to be self-aware. But I just couldn't get them to quit. Just like Coben, I couldn't get them to quit being defensive and scared of their dog. And they're not bad people, and they're not bad dog owners. They're just making a really bad mistake that snowballs. It keeps coming back at them, and I just couldn't break the cycle. They couldn't break the cycle. Because at that point, you have to tell them, well, you can't be afraid of being bit. That's just a part of it. You have to accept it if you don't want to be bit worse and you don't want to ruin your dog. And that's hard to tell a client. Well, just don't be afraid of something that's rudimentary, something to be afraid of. But that's what's going to take. You have to be braver. You have to be more Bull Terrier than them. Simple as that. But yeah, so potty training. What's your experience with potty training, and do you have any tips or tricks? I know I have my ways.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who probably want to know this, because Lord knows
that's like number
afraid
2
to do.
I think number 1 question about puppies, and we'll get to this next, is the biting and the nipping and the jumping, which with Bull Terrier especially is, it's not trying to be a Bull Terrier episode, but I mean, this is our experience base, and I think they're an extreme version of what other people may experience. And then potty training, and then probably with puppies, the next thing would be chewing on things. So, but so what is your overall technique like? How do you approach potty training?
My opinions on potty training are that it's not training. It is, I mean, we have to eliminate. Like, that is a bodily function. That is something that you have to do.
And that not all of us have control over all the time.
Yeah.
For various reasons.
And it's not something that your dog is just like, well, I'm gonna take a shit on the floor. It's not something, that your dog can just be like, well, let me check the time to make sure that this is convenient for everybody involved. They have to go. And
nature calls.
What I tell people is, potty habits are largely conditioned. So, like, for example, if you could imagine going to a new person's home and they're like, okay, we don't use the toilet. We go in this room and we do our business in a bucket. If you were to go in there, your body will literally clam up because it's not a toilet. And that is conditioned. Your body is conditioned to eliminate on a toilet. Like, that's what you're used to, and you can actually clam up by going anywhere else. And it's kind of
I had that problem the first time I had to do it in the woods.
Yeah,
like squatting down weird, and just like your body's like, don't do it. This is the right place.
Yep. Your body is automatically going to try and shut that down. And it's the same with puppies. And if your puppy has been eliminating a lot on the carpet, when you take them out, they are going to kind of have a much harder time because their body is telling them, no, we don't do this here. We do this inside on the carpet, or we do this inside on the floor.
Yeah.
So my potty advice is, you don't have to punish them. You don't even really have to praise them. Some puppies I've encountered have been kind of shy. If you're like, go potty, yay, and kind of flooding them, and they'll be like,
oh no.
They don't want to do that.
I said about adjusting your conversation with each dog.
Yeah. And just get them where they need to be. And that's it. That's potty training, is getting them where they need to be when they need to do it, being on their schedule, because they're babies. They're literally babies, or even adult dogs that like rescue.
They don't even know how to read their signals from their own body.
Yeah.
I tell clients they don't even know when they have to go potty until it's like now. And so helping them learn that, helping you learn that. So my approach is, well, first we need to condition them to tell us when they need to go. But when they're a really, really tiny baby, it's just before and after. That's my rule. So after you wake up, you go potty. Before you come back indoors, you have to go potty. After you're done playing, you go potty. Before you play, you go potty. Before you eat, after you eat. You just looked at me funny. Let's go potty. It's just like anytime you start conditioning yourself to say, how long has it been? What did they just increase activity? Did they just wake up? Are they about to go to sleep? So you before and after all of that, every single time. It's just the more you get them out, the better, because the conditioning, the prime conditioning, you go outside more frequently than you go inside, and then you learn outside is appropriate. So I have worked with dogs that have what I call puppy mill syndrome. Yeah, it's something I kind of coined, that where their den behavior, they're very clean. Like most dogs are kind of pre-programmed not to go where they sleep and eat. And if they potty in their crate and they have no problem with it, and it's just constant, that's been broken in them. They've been conditioned accidentally. That's where you go. And then it makes it even harder for them to learn to go outdoors where they're vulnerable and exposed. It's better to go where they're comfortable and warm. And I know a lot of dogs that like to potty on soft surfaces versus hard ones, which really frustrates people because I can mop it up over there. And but I usually come in with clients that already have a problem with a slightly older dog. So I tell them, first foremost, we need to teach them how to tell us. So if they're pottying on the floor, I tell them, scold them a little bit. You don't need to like go any further than that. Like, no, just express that you're displeased, that this makes us upset. And I tell them, go get a paper towel and a treat and come back and maybe even a poop bag if you're really squeamish. Pick up whatever it is, soak up whatever it is, pee or poo, and take them and it out quietly outside, and place the urine or poop outside and show it to them very calmly, and then praise them in any way that they accept. So and give them a treat if they can, and then you go inside and either bring them inside and put them in the crate, or leave them outside if you feel safe doing so, and clean up with enzymatic cleaner that area. And anytime they pass by, you scold them again. That doesn't belong in here. It goes outside, and then you can bring them to you, or take them to the bell on the door, whatever it is, whatever way you want to teach them to tell you, and then take them outside. So you smell where you had pottied. That tells me you thinking about potty. I'll show you how to tell me that to take that outdoors, and we go do it. Mm-hmm. And if they're whining in the crate a lot, act as if they have to go potty, even if you know they don't. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's how you tell me that you need out. Let's go outside. Oh, you didn't need to go? Let's go inside. So you give them very little attention, be very dry about it, so they're not getting too much of an added benefit, But so it's just seeing how the dog sees what you're communicating and what you represent to the dog, and what they're associating with what. That's really the core of training and behavior to me.
Mm-hmm. Another tip that I always give people is for either puppies or rescues is anytime they go near the door to, even if they're just walking near the door, sniffing around the door, take them out, because that's how they learn that door equals the outside. I used to I had a puppy in an apartment just before we moved out of the apartment, and it was an upstairs apartment, and I had to carry him down the stairs because it was like open face stairs in the side and the back, and he couldn't go down those stairs on his own, and he had such a hard time learning where to ask to go out until I started every time he'd go near the door, it was right out, and I would let him step out the door until we got to the top of the stairs, and then I'd carry him down the stairs. And that was how he was able to make the association with the door going to the outside.
That's true too. I do that as well, and I didn't really think about it.
Like they need that association to know where the door is, and especially like with rescues, if you bring them in, because I've had people, where they tell me that they're frustrated because they got this rescue who they were told is potty trained, and then the rescue, as soon as it comes in, pees or poops on the floor. But not every layout of a house is the same. Not
every door looks like a door to them.
Yeah, it's you have to teach them where the outside is. They may know where the outside is, but if they don't know which door is which to go out and ask, then they're just going to go because they have to go.
And I tell people when they adopt dogs that's what they need to look out for, is that every dog, when they come into your home, no matter their age or what they've been taught, is going to have a potty accident for a variety of reasons. They may not feel comfortable telling you they have to go potty. They don't want to draw attention to the stranger that they're now in the house with, that they don't know. They don't know how you accept how they tell you, and they certainly don't know where the outdoor is. Like, how do I even tell you if I don't know which of these 20 doors in this house goes outside? So just you have to be patient, accept the fact that when you bring a dog in your home, there's going to be an adjustment period, and it's going to include pottying. And sometimes their nervousness and stress is going to make them have to potty more frequently than they're used to. It might even be an emergency where they feel cramps and they're upset and they're nervous, and so they miss their own cues that they have to potty, and then emergency potty. So be patient. Be patient first and foremost. Know that no dog does anything out of spite or cruelty or vengeance, and it's not personal. And that'll help you seek the truth rather than get stuck on an emotional, roller coaster of anger and frustration.
Well, when Druid's puppies and Clarence and all of them were here, it was summertime, and they actually started going to the windows when they were open because they could smell the outside, and they would start crying at the windows. That was actually their first indicator to me that they had to go potty. Is everybody would run to the open window and start crying at the window when it was open.
That smells like the bathroom. We need to go.
Like they could smell the outside, and they're like, okay, I need to go outside. But again, they were too small, so I was having to carry them out the door because our house is built into a hill, so all of our doors are like there's steps to get down them.
I have 2 steps at least to get in and out of any of our doors here. We're not in a hill. We're just in a house built in 1890. So
we're built directly in the side of the hill, so all of our steps are like Like technically our ground level at the front door is like you have to go up a staircase to get in.
Yeah.
But yeah, with puppies you can't just
chuck them down the stairs.
I could just imagine picking up these puppies and then pooping and peeing on me as I'm trying to get them out.
Oh yes, that happened multiple times. Yes. I started outdoor potty training with everybody at 4 weeks. So it was every hour I pick you up, set you on the ground to eliminate, put you back in. And I did that. I started crate training them at about 5.5 weeks, and I set my alarm like clockwork all night for every hour, and then every 2 hours, and then every 3 hours by the time they were 8 weeks old.
That's
see, y'all got so much patience for this. I would not be able to do it. Like not at all. Not with the way. Not with how my sleep is and everything else. Like
it's just like any other baby. You're gonna lose sleep until they can adjust and grow.
You see, now I don't have that problem because my daughter knows when she gotta go to the bathroom, she goes to the door, she paws at it, everything else. I take her outside, she's done with her business. I ain't gotta worry about that.
Yeah, she's old enough now to use the poop bag.
Oh yeah, she can do it herself too. Everything else.
Does she lift her leg though?
No, she squats. She squats. She's 5. She squats. She's not that flexible yet.
This is my tree.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like doing the hour by hour for a puppy and everything else. Like, if I ever adopted a dog, it would honestly have to be, not a puppy. I would have to. I don't have the patience for it anymore.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. It's like, are you really prepared for a puppy? And I have to explain that to them. That's sometimes the first thing I go to because people like their sleep. I was like, well, either you're gonna have a dog that's gonna be slower to potty train, and you're going to have to clean up a mess that you smell and you have to get up in the middle of the night to clean, or you can set yourself up for success and just take the hit and set alarms. Or I have a natural rhythm alarm for that, and I kind of keep an ear out for my puppies, but recently I sleep deeper than that. So when I get a puppy next, I'll probably have to adjust and get alarms in there. But yeah, I guess my boy was barked at. Trisha's dog is hurt. Or that Elle has something going on with her back. And so she'll randomly scream because it hurts and startles her. And she did that this morning, I guess. And Coben, even who is right next to me, barked. And he's one of the loudest dogs I've ever owned. Like, he will make your teeth rattle. That's how loud he is. You feel it in your feet. He's just such a loudmouth for such a small dog. But yeah, he barked and I didn't even hear it. Like, I was out. Just part of old age, I guess.
That's how you know when you're a dog owner and you don't hear that bark or that cry or that throw up.
Cheers. But yeah, it's so the jumping and biting is one of my biggest challenges to teach clients how to deal with, because to me it's a very personal personal tolerance and just dealing with physical discomfort and knowing how to zen, like get a hold of them, calm them, redirect them, close their mouth gently, teach them kisses, go get a toy. So I think I brought this up last time you're on the show that when my wife first moved in with me, I had my Bull Terrier Hero that my logo's made after. And she would get him all excited, and he'd get all real excited, and he'd start jumping up at her. And I could see him thinking about mouthing at her, and like puppies do. And he'll stop, and he'll go and look at the walls and look around because he's looking for toys that we keep up in shelves and stuff. And Trisha would be like, what is he doing? Because it looks really strange when you're like, this dog is really excited, all of a sudden stops and starts looking around. And I was like, well, I had to teach him, like I teach all of my puppies, you have to teach them something to do instead. You can't just tell them, don't chew on me and play with me this way. Well, they want to play with you. You have to teach him the interface so he knows not to put his mouth on me, go find a toy, or I'll find one, bring one to him. And that's my solution, is always keep a toy on you or on a shelf nearby in every room, something that's an interface toy, something soft and arm shaped, like those toys that have the 2 loops and they're multiple stitched around the edge. Those are one of my favorites. They're tough toys. And because that feels soft to them, like your arm and like your hand, something that they're kind of looking for already. And just, you're gonna have to shove that in their mouth, and if they refuse to play with that and they keep wanting to play with you, you're gonna have to calm them down, take them for a walk, or put them outside to go potty, and then put them in the crate to chill. So they learn, well, if they don't play the game your way, they don't play at all. And
Yeah.
so you kind of put them in a rock and a hard place and they have to pick. And it's more rewarding to play the way you ask and for everyone. But that's kind of, and a lot, I don't know if anyone's ever taken my advice on that. I've told Tommy and other people that if I got paid for how much people don't listen to me, I'd earn more than I do now. Especially when it comes to
pretty sure you
puppies.
actually addressed that on the podcast at one point too.
God, yeah.
So you know,
it's, especially with puppies, it takes that kind of dedication to work, like getting up every hour through the night. You have to be less selfish. To me, being less selfish is being better at being selfish, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
The more you make current Kyle pay now, the more dividends future Kyle will get. But future Kyle, because he's not me Kyle now. Kyle now wants more sleep. Kyle in the future can just suck it. But you can't think that way. I actually shared a meme on TikTok that kind of shares my philosophy about life, that you know, the more you want to be selfish, the more selfless you should be, and the more you want kindness and honor and respect, you just give it away and don't ever look for it in return. If you don't care how much you get back, you're going to get more back, and it's going to be more genuine. But that's kind of, puppies are that in a nutshell. They're a whole bunch of pre-work where you just really screw yourself in the moment. You're just constantly getting chewed on, getting bit, getting frustrated, hitting your head against that brick wall, having faith that it's going to get better.
Yep.
And it just, people are just not, they don't have the discipline for that in general.
I don't think, I see so many people who don't realize what it means to, how many times you have to go through the motions of something, even in a single session, like biting and when they're jumping up at you to start biting and chewing and going after you. And I see so many people, for some people. Yeah, and I see so many people who are like, well, I handed him the toy and he spit it out. Well, you gotta keep handing him the toy and
shove it in their mouth. I've had to get a hold of dogs, open their mouth, and put the toy in there, and then
you just take it. Yeah, and people don't realize that you have to do that not one or two times. For a lot of puppies, especially when they're really, really hyped, you have to do it like 80, 90. Like, you're going to be doing this motion for like 30 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, I tell people you have to be like a robot. You have to just be like on the assembly line. You're just doing the thing over and over and over and over and be content. I call it the paid by the hour mentality too sometimes. Like, hey, dog, I'm here all day.
Yep.
I'm just going to do my job over and over. When they realize that nothing will change until they change, that's... You got to be that brick wall as well. You can't be pushed around and moved. And that's, you know, the worst bull terrier owners I've known are people that are emotionally a flag in the wind, that flip anywhere that the wind blows, that are, they give up too quick. They change gears too frequently. They're not bull terrier enough to own a bull terrier. They're not, this is the way it's going to go. No matter what, this is what's going to happen. And so that they get bowled over by this dog, and then this dog gets hyper, and this dog can't be controlled in their mind, and they get so terrified because people aren't ready for how freaking powerful a bull terrier puppy is. I've known 8-week-old bull terrier puppies that are stronger than 6-year-old, you know, Shih Tzus and dogs of same, you know, so they're bigger physically than them. Because, you know, pound for pound, they're stronger than any other dog breed in the world, and then they have these knives or teeth and their beady little eyes that are hard for people to read at first, you know, because they're so deep set. So people can't see that humans connect with their eyes, and they can't see those eyes. So you just see this big, you know, skull of hard bone and backed by thick cedar trees of legs being shoved at you with all these big gaping mouth of teeth, and they don't see the dog humanity in there, you might say, and they get so overwhelmed by it.
The dog manity. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and they quit thinking, because fear is the mind killer. It really is. Fear is an instinct, and it takes over decisions, and it's not good. You can't be a leader when you're following your reflexes and your instincts, and then bull terriers can definitely trigger that. Yeah, and dogs in general. You know, there's a lot of other breeds that can do the same thing. Mastiffs and English bulldogs. English bulldogs, they really get on single track. Like they get weird, they get stuck, and just get so intense. And and they can't be dissuaded, and they become like a robot. That scares a lot of people with those dogs. Like you just can't be scared. You just have to be like Tai Chi master.
Persistent.
Just keep your center, deflect, accept your feelings, put them in the back, and just keep forward with the plan.
I mean, with everything that you guys keep bringing up, it's almost like you got to be like a martial arts expert to be able to handle a puppy, or especially a bull terrier or any kind like this.
Yeah.
And how many, on average, how many puppies would you get your puppy fever? How many of those do you deal with at a time?
I get puppy fever. Okay. So I'm like I'm a busy-minded person myself. I'm a very, I don't like to just do nothing. So I get puppy fever every like 1 to 2 years. As soon as I get comfortable with my adult dogs, as soon as my adult dogs have a routine, I'm like, gotta switch it up. We gotta switch it up. I need something more to do. You guys, this routine is too much for me. I gotta keep going. I need something to do.
And that might be why I don't get puppy fever, because my lifestyle with the work I do, it's always constantly mutating and changing, which actually leads to a lot of anxiety for me, because I don't like change. But my life is about like when 6 months from now, the dogs I'm picking up are going to be different. Both they're changing, the dogs I'm working with are changing and getting better and changing, or certain behaviors are rising up because I'm dealing with other ones. You know how that is. Sometimes it's like an onion. You peel out one layer and there's the next layer of behavior issue, and or they're totally new dogs, and it's constantly changing. And so I don't need the challenge of, like, I don't get bored with my dogs. My dogs have to constantly learn new things and deal with stuff, or re-deal with something they already dealt with. And so I guess that's I don't have the puppy fever because of that. Plus I know how much work it is, and I get kind of lazy. I dread and am excited too about maybe that, when I do get a puppy in here, and a lot of the dread comes because I'm not going to get one until Kobun's gone. So that's going to mean, first and foremost, I'm going to be a wreck, and in not a great place. And I'm going to need a puppy, and I'm going to have to deal with my loss and pain, and deal with teaching the puppy and all that work. So I'm just getting older, and it gets harder. But yeah, so I think what you were talking about is, like, are you asking how big her litters get?
Yeah, like how many do you usually handle at a time? Because obviously handling a puppy is a lot of hard work. You're waking up every hour. It's like, are you doing like 2, 3, 4, a dozen at a time? Like
Clarence's litter, there was 4 puppies.
That's kind of a small litter, but I don't know if that's small for a bull terrier. I thought they averaged like 6 to 8.
Yeah, they can. Nichols came from a litter of 9.
Wow.
And then Druid, Clarence's mom, was a litter of 8.
Wow.
My mom's pit bulls used to have, I think our biggest litter was 15 puppies, because we had a couple that were like doubled up, I think, in the horns. But pit bulls seem to really have big litters, like 12 and 10 to 12. But
Druid, Clarence's litter came out of a frozen AI. And that can kind of have smaller litters.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Also, I hear is that a lot of times a female's first breeding tends to be a little bit smaller, shallower penetration and briefer, because they're freaked out by it, which I don't blame them.
I want to say the frozen semen was 4 years or 6 years old. So it'd been frozen a while.
See, if I knew that, I'd be joking that, my 2-year-old puppy was actually 8 years old. According to Republicans.
Yeah, right?
Oh, Lord. It's like that, the TikTok you sent me earlier and whatnot, like,
oh boy,
the carpool lane.
That was gross.
That was awful.
Oh boy, I might have sent it to Kimberly too. I don't remember. If I didn't, I might. Sometimes I don't.
I don't think you needed to, because I said carpool lane and she lost her mind. So she probably has an idea. Like,
I have a good idea.
Yeah, it's worse than you think, probably.
I don't think it involves puppies though. So
no, just a bunch of tadpoles. But let's see here. So we've kind of covered potty training and jumping up and nipping. There's no real magic to it. It's just you got to deal with it and redirect it. And if you can't do either of those, or it's not working to your satisfaction, you're going to have to simply put the puppy up to help them low. So I tell people, start monitoring your dog's excitement level or intensity or whatever it is, like a tachometer, like how many RPMs, or from levels 1 to 10. Like 10 is like red zone batshit crazy, and 1 is they're nearly asleep. So if they're at like a 5 now and they keep escalating, it doesn't take much energy or time to go from a 5 to an 8.
Yeah.
But if you help them either by getting a hold of them, putting them on a leash, making them sit, or go into a crate until they're down to a 2, it's going to take a lot more time and energy for them to climb back to that 6. And that's kind of how you teach them to limit their energy, and that how much is unacceptable and what the consequences are isn't a punishment, but helping them regulate themselves, lower their energy, so they can come out and have more fun. Because they can't have fun. No one's having fun except for maybe only the dog if they're at a level 8 all the time going nuts. And I still don't think they're having that much fun either. I don't see an excited hyper dog as enjoying themselves as much as making themselves more anxious, and they know they're disrupting others, and they're not learning how to not disrupt the mentality of the group. And they're making themselves an outlier, which is making themselves a target, which increases the likelihood of worse puppy fear stage situation. You're one of the few people I've watched on any YouTube or anything that talked about puppy fear stages like I have. But like, depending on the breed and the size of dog, between 8 to 10 months up to like 18 months, they can start, they become very self-aware of who they are and how they're influencing the mentality of the group and other individuals, and that terrifies them, and they get overwhelmed by it, and they don't know what to do about it. And that just makes that worse when they're never taught how to maintain their own mentality and their energy level.
One of the biggest pieces of advice that I usually try to give people for puppies is something that I found over the years that has been extremely helpful for me is if you can schedule activity levels, spikes, and drops during the day. It doesn't matter the activity per se, but if you can schedule points in your day where it's high levels and then low levels, high levels and low levels, and work with your dogs in those levels, it will be so much easier to predict and to maintain.
And I've taught people that a long time about anxiety with dogs is teaching, allowing them to have peaks and valleys and knowing that that's how it's going to go, and trying to make it more predictable through schedule. Yeah.
And it doesn't, like, people, when I say, schedule your day, they think, oh, well, a walk every day or this specific activity every day. It doesn't have to be a specific activity, just as long as it's, you get their energy out, or you give them an activity to get their energy out. And then when they're already coming down from that, schedule your low points, schedule your rest time, schedule your just chilling out. And then as they get older, they get accustomed to, when to have those peaks, and then it's much easier to work with them on teaching them how to settle, when to settle. And you can have a much better predictor of, instead of having your puppy or your dog think that they can be on all the time, think that they can just, okay, well, this continuously goes. I never have to pay attention to a down point, or I never know when a rest point is, or anything like that. So there's a possibility that I could just go all day long. But if you schedule those high points, and then immediately after those high points, schedule those low points where it's, okay, now we're resting, then they can understand a lot better and start to grasp, because you're working with their already, tired self. You're working with them when they're already needing a low point, when their body and their minds are already ready to rest.
And that's part of what I was talking about earlier about predicting each other. And as you, the human and the leader, you're creating the predictabilities for yourself and for the dog. So if you're teaching those peaks and valleys, and you're pre-planning in the future, well, I work best in the afternoon, and I want more time to do my work or job or travel or go get groceries, whatever, in the afternoon. I'm going to start creating a rhythm where their rest time is usually an X amount of time that they know is around that time per day. Now, and with dogs with severe anxiety issues, I tell people, don't make too rigid of a schedule, and don't make the events happen in the same order all the time. Switch it up. So sometimes most of the time we go for a walk in the evening. at this time-ish, like a window, an hour or 2 hour window. So they don't get used to a rigid schedule, and then I feed you afterwards. And sometimes I feed you first, and we go for the walk. So they learn to adapt to and be adaptable to changes, because your lifestyle is going to change at times. And if you're so rigid on your schedule and then your lifestyle changes, you have to change that schedule. It's going to cause so much more stress for a dog that already has a disorder. If they have an anxiety disorder, that it's going to be rough on them. So you predict how life could be, and you make it similar to that now, like where it changes a little bit. So when things do change a little bit or a lot, they've at least gotten used to the changing their pace. So, and Bull Terrier, I noticed, seemed to be really bad about, just like me, not liking change at all. And so I try to keep it kind of mixed up with my dogs for that reason.
I don't know. Everything you folks are explaining are like, I never thought it would be like making sense kind of like this, but I mean, doing the whole, like you said, the whole schedule of up, down with it. I mean,
the same way.
That makes,
especially special needs kids.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, looking at it from my perspective, not really, because all I ever knew of puppies was growing up is, oh, they're cute, they're sweet, they're energetic. I ain't got to worry about any of that. You know?
A lot of people, that's their experience with puppies.
Yeah. I mean, so that's all I have with it. But it's like taking what you're both saying. I mean, a lot of it makes perfect sense on why you would want to do that and why you would want to gauge and, you know, change the behavior with it and all that, with doing the up and down. And
you want to create tools and ways of communicating and training things and tricks that you want to, that you could see in the future could be useful for possible future issues. And you're teaching them now when they're young, impressionable, low energy, smaller, or in situations where it's not as intense or scary. So if I know that if I meet a wild dog that wants to attack us out in public, I'm going to want my dog to look at me and sit and wait and let me deal with the dog. Then I'm going to teach them that in my house now when they're 8 weeks, 9 weeks old, or 2, 3 months or 4 months old.
I just know if I ever get puppies, I'm dealing with you two. I'll have you on one phone, I'll have you on the other, and be like, what am I doing here?
Hey, what do you think?
He's like, I'm just, and if I can't handle, I'm just gonna call her. Like, so how much to send this little her up to you?
See, that might be a good thing to bring up too about puppies. A lot of people just automatically think about when the dog gets old enough, I'm sending him to board and train. Yeah. My opinion of board and training is it's mostly a scam. I think it's a terrible idea, and I can't tell you how many dogs come to me because they've been damaged at a board and train facility through just punitive techniques. You don't know what those people are doing with that dog, or they just store the dog for a long time until you come and get it, and they don't actually train it, and it just you just don't know what you're getting into.
I don't know. All that ever sounded fishy to me. It's like, why would I want to pay somebody money to house my dog and train it when I could just, the whole point is, you know, to own the dog, do the training yourself, or have them come to you and do it. I've always kind of thought that was kind of sketchy to just send your dog like sending your kid to boarding school, you know, like, oh, I don't want to deal with the kid. Let's just send them away and whatnot. And to me, it's kind of like the same thing.
Boarding a dog, when they come back, you have to kind of pick up and do a lot of the work anyways.
That's how the leash gets transferred.
That board and train is just send them away and come back to this dog perfectly, you know, listening to you. But even if you have a trainer who's like really, really good, you still, it's about communication between you and your dog, and you're still going to have to put in the work anyways. You're still going to have to, you may not have to put in quite as much work because your dog, you know, has
at least the gist.
I mean, yeah, they have the gist of it. But at the same time, you're still learning how to read that dog's cues. That dog is still learning how to listen to you in the way that, you know, you are speaking to them and asking them to do this thing that is completely different from what that trainer was.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. It's like, isn't it basically just like reacclimating the dog to yourself? It's like getting it for the first time again and whatnot. Like, do you really want to go back through all of that? I think it's
detrimental to your relationship. To me, the dogs' lives are so freaking short. Missing more than a day of their life hurts me. Like, I couldn't imagine 2, 3, 4 weeks away from my dog. That's a large part of their life, especially at a young age. And if you've noticed, I believe in relationship with your dog first and foremost, and that connection and that time that, and you know, putting that work in is bonding.
Yeah,
it's you know how much energy it took for you to get that dog there, and you appreciate what you did for that dog, and you appreciate that dog accepting that information from you, and just having someone else do that for me, just like you said, it defeats the purpose. Like you lose out on the important parts of it. Like it's like people trying to skip hit the skip button. I just want to get to the end where I get all the benefits. Well, the benefits come from and are the benefit is teaching the dog these things. And so when clients ask me about, well, can you take the dog in and help? Well, with behavior work, sometimes the dog does need a reset. They need a change of environments, but I'm still very slow and cautious to do that. If the people live out of state or something, sometimes I will be a little quicker, but like, yeah, I'll give you a shot in the arm, bring him over here. I want to get to know him. I'll start some of the rehab process, but I'll be talking to those people weekly about here's what I've been doing and why, and what I've noticed about your dog. And I insist on spending 2 days with the people when I drop the dog off. So I have to still be in driving distance or somewhere. You have to pay for my travel, my hotel, and I want to spend 4 or 5 hours with you the day I drop the dog off, and then I want to come back and spend a few more hours with you then, and make sure you can answer any questions, and for you to be overnight and be through the day with that dog. And I'll hang out even afterwards somewhere else in case you have an emergency or you need questions. And I do all I can to support and hand those reins off. So I'm saying, well, here's how I communicate and why. Here's how you can adapt it. You don't need to be me perfectly, but you at least need to start here and adapt the way you communicate to your dog. But so board and train, I think is a thumbs down, except for in extreme cases. And you better do a lot of research about that facility and see who's come out of that. And a lot of these people I've noticed that clients have come to me and they've signed NDAs, which is non-disclosure agreements.
An NDA on boarding and train. See,
so they're like,
as if it wasn't sus enough.
And they're like, well, we'll tell you who it is as long as you don't like tell everyone else who told you. And I was like, I don't badmouth quote competitors. Like I've told you before, the only competitor against someone like me is the PhD behavioralist at Ohio State here. Everyone else are trainers. But anyway, quotations.
Well, I've got a friend who worked for a long time in these facilities in order to, get started in dog behavior and stuff like that. And she has told me and multiple other of her friends to be very leery because of what she knows. Because a lot of these trainers are, especially in the bigger facilities, are taught to just get the dogs, done as quick as possible and just kind of crank and yank, where, they have to perform because you can't have the owners being like, well, it's not, it's not as nice. It's not as clean. It's not as, 100% reliable. And I need it to be reliable the second the dog comes out of your facility. So,
that's just
and a lot of being able to do that in that short amount of time.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And being able to do that in that short amount of time is a lot of negative,
I call it punitive
discomfort and pain and force, essentially.
Well, I mean, to me, and the way that your friend describes it, they're acting just like a basic business. We got to keep the revenue coming in, so we got to get these dogs in and get them out as soon as possible, so we could get the next batch in, and the next batch, and so on and so forth.
And as a business, because I don't think Kimberly does behavior work technically professionally.
No.
But as a business, that's something I constantly have always struggled to make sure I make a balance, make sure I don't create unrealistic expectation in clients, but I also have to, at the same time, have to encourage them and let them know there's hope. And I have clients ask me sometimes, well, do you have any guarantees? What's your warranty or your guarantee? It's like, no one in this business should be giving you a guarantee. Number one, first and foremost, you would have to sign paperwork guaranteeing me you will listen, comprehend, and execute everything I say. So you're going to be just as slow to guarantee that as I would, because those are unreasonable.
At that point, they'd just be, well, have a good day. We'll see you later.
And so if you guarantee me that, then I can guarantee we'll have some results. Will they be the results you're demanding or wanting or hoping for? Probably not, maybe not.
Mhm.
And I'm usually surprised by, maybe I'm too pessimistic, I'm surprised by my clients and the dogs, how well they improve. Because I have what I consider realistic expectations, which are very awesome and still to some people would be like extraordinary expectations, but through experience I know I can get them at least to here. Then I see the people and the dog blossom to here, and I'm like, yes, you took what I had to say to heart, you expanded upon it for yourself, you made it real to you. That's what my goal is, and that so most clients do that, and I'm very impressed. But yeah, there's no guarantees in this, and as a business you have to be realistic and also encouraging, and make sure I don't thin my own self out to the point where not only I'm lacking quality. I was thinking clarity, but quality of my work, and I can't sacrifice that for quantity for income. So I have to balance that with how much I charge. But not price myself out of the business or make it so people that need my help can afford me. It's very, very difficult. It's hard to make this a career because of so many factors.
But when you're doing things
I have to worry about my own life, my own quality of my own life too, which impacts the job as well.
I say with any good successful business, I mean, in practice it should always be quality over quantity, no matter what you're doing. And a lot of places don't. I mean, any kind of business, a lot of them will sacrifice that, especially if they know they can make a quick buck super fast and get their profit going.
Well, there's pressure from the clients too, where they are going to compare you in prices to other similar service, and so you're trying. The pressure from the client is for you to be done quicker, do better than anyone else, to portray yourself as superior to others. And just do the rat race, and I refuse to do that, and that confuses some clients. I'm like, look, I'm cheaper than these other guys that don't do anywhere near as well as I do, or half as the work I put in. And I'm fine with that, but these other people you're comparing me to aren't comparable. And I have to tell people all the time, I'm not a trainer, I'm not an obedience trainer. I come in as a remedial issue, like psychological problems and fear and anxiety in people and in the dogs, and how that's interfacing with each other. And it's very complicated, it's very stressful, it's very dangerous, it's very nuanced. And I'll deal with dogs in the country that no one else will deal with. I'll deal with dogs that have bitten people in the past that are probably going to bite me, and I have to, and other trainers' behaviors won't deal with that, and I don't blame them. But there's this balance about all that, and I've had to tell clients, well, you can't compare me to those people. I'm an apple, they're an orange. And if you say your dentist could do your heart surgery for a quarter of the price, you could do that.
Still
and
doesn't mean you should do it.
May be successful. They are a doctor, but it's not wise to have a non-specialist work on something that requires a specialist.
Yeah, is it bad that my teeth and my chest are hurting right now because you said that? Like, I'm sitting here like,
And that's the thing too, that there is a connection between tooth health and heart health. But that doesn't necessarily mean you want your dentist doing your open heart surgery. And also, let's flip it around. I would not want the best heart surgeon in the country doing a tooth extraction and fillings and other things like that. The human organism, and any organism, is too complicated for any one person to do it all well enough to do it all. You need specialties. I think we over specialize sometimes as well, and there's obviously overlap. I'm not better than a trainer. I'm just absolutely different than one.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, she froze. Oh, there she is. It was weird. It was like a really bad Japanese dub. Like you're like this, and it's like, yes, of course. That is exactly accurate.
We almost always in every episode come back around to Japanese dubbing. In the last episode, I totally did that. Japanese dubbing on myself. So, so board and train. We've dealt with potty training, jumping up and biting, chewing on things we've kind of bumped into a little bit.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes along with the whole biting.
The jumping and biting, it's a similar solution. Correct them for it. What I use sometimes is like cayenne powder on certain surfaces, because it's unpleasant to the dog, but it won't injure them.
I was just getting ready to ask you, like cayenne pepper, that's not kind of like injure or
no,
harm the dog.
It's not acidic.
Like...
I mean, it's not pleasant to the dog. It's my last attempt to help. It's like the end where this dog's gonna damage furniture and break off teeth and get an obstruction. It's better that they get a little pepper in their mouth. And I've had so much, like only 1 in 3 dogs respond to bitter spray negatively, like where they don't like it. The others will chew it more. And I've even encountered dogs that like spicy stuff and will eat things because,
I imagine any of your dogs would like spicy stuff.
They better in my house.
I could just see you sprinkling your special burger seasoning on their food and whatnot before you feed them. Like,
but the solution I have to chewing up things is like I already referenced. Well, control how many things they could chew up that they can encounter.
Yeah.
Put down what you do want them to encounter and watch them and correct them. So that's how I see it. But some people are like, well, that's too simple and that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, sorry.
Sometimes simple.
Hard work.
Sometimes simple is the best example. The best way. It doesn't have to be complicated. Although puppies are obviously complicated, and I don't want to deal with them. That's my takeaway. That's my takeaway from this one. Puppies are complicated, and I want nothing to do with it.
Honestly, that's valid.
I mean, I'm dealing with my own 5-year-old kid. I don't.
And you know what? That might be
on top of that.
That might be one of the very most important things about puppies. This topic I could bring up is just that, like, just like with anything, like what breed you want, or if you want a dog at all, what if you want a puppy or not, if you want a rescue or not. Do your research to know what you might be getting into, and be honest with yourself, with your partners, which would be anyone that's going to live in the home with this dog, and have them be honest with you too. And be like, look, even if you're like, hell no, tell me. It's okay. You have you should express that, because everyone has to be dedicated and all in. Otherwise, this isn't going to work, right? Especially the primary caregiver of the puppy, which is likely to shift. Sometimes, this is going to be my dog, and I'll take care of it. And I'm sure everyone else better be prepared to pick up the slack, because this is a living being that needs your help. It doesn't have opposable thumbs. It needs someone to care for it. So be all in or don't do it, and accept people's opinions or like hell no. Because
I mean, I like animals. I like dogs, like cats, but not for me.
Borrow them from somewhere else. Go visit me.
Exactly.
To see that my dogs and get your fill and leave. I wish more people would do that. Just get a photo of your favorite breed. Get a stuffed animal of your favorite breed.
I would prefer people do that than just be excited, introduce a dog to their family, and then, a week or two later, well, we can't afford the dog, we got to get rid of it, kind of thing. It's like you got to plan for something like that. You can't just dive in, and it's like,
well, they treat it like a robot or a car brand that, I know that make and model is cool. Well, this is a living being. Each one's going to be very different. It may be within the parameters of that make and model to some extent, but it's still going to be not that other dog
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Honda Shih Tzu myself.
And you don't know how much work or what kind of work and what kind of relationship that someone had to have with that dog to make it that dog. And a lot of times people don't even know that about themselves and their dog. Like their dogs just always seem to work out because of their personality and the natural innate abilities they have for training and connecting with dogs. And even they don't know to warn someone, well, I had to do all these things to get this dog the way it is, because to you, that's just what you do with dogs. But to a person come like Tommy, that's why I like Tommy to be my co-host. He's
because I don't know Jack.
a good base average person that has no real experience with dogs, but some, like most Americans, and has a good, valid approach and has good questions that, I think an average person may want to ask. Because that's important. I hear my dogs are getting out to go potty right now. Trish is getting everyone out to go potty.
That, and honestly, with my work schedule, it wouldn't be viable anyways, because I'm on the computer on the phone with customers from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. My schedule changes daily. Depending on how long a call is, I might not even get a break. So if I've got, a dog I'm trying to take care of and I can't get them out, I can't give them the attention they deserve. And sometimes after work, I've been on the phone till I get off at 6. I've been on the phone till 8:30, almost 9 at night. It's like by that point, it's like I don't want to deal with anything else anyway. So
see, and you're an average. That unfortunately is a reality for most Americans, which means fewer and fewer Americans are appropriate homes for dogs. And even cats need more attention than that. So sometimes people can't even have a cat.
I'll be honest. When I had my cat
over there,
I was gonna say, I'll be honest. When we got our cat, because we just brought it in from the outside, like it trained itself to use like the litter box and everything else. I'm like, how is this possible? You know, like,
yeah,
I don't understand it, but you know, I'm down for it.
it is
Like,
either a pet of someone else's, and I have had cats that just automatically knew that's where I go. It's
I don't
a
know.
good place.
We ended up taking him to the vet when we had him, and he was only like a few months old and
Aw.
whatnot. Something had to have happened to him though, because like most of his tail was gone too. Like he's a
Aw.
real short tail.
Mhm.
It didn't look like it was like maliciously removed or
Yeah.
anything like that. It was just like, I'm not even sure what kind of cat he is, but I mean he's still around now and whatnot. But
That can happen with
We,
cat litters, that the mothers chew the umbilicals off and sometimes
Mhm.
disembowel their kittens.
mhm.
And sometimes they mistake a tail for an umbilical cord, especially
Yep.
new moms, and they
Yeah.
may gnaw it off. So it actually becomes almost surgical, pretty clean.
Yeah.
And because it happened at such a young age, it heals.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was my first experience ever with a cat too. Was 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to Walmart to buy all these supplies for it because my kid and my wife at the time didn't. You know, they're like, oh, you know, we can't put them back out there. Like, all right, let's go to Walmart. You know, and then get told the next day, by the way, you two have to figure out how to potty train him, or we're getting rid of him in a week. Like, I didn't even want him to begin with. Like, how this fall on me all of a sudden? Then he did it himself. I'm like, yeah, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I'm a good cat owner. So I tell you what, a puppy learn how to potty train itself. I'll be down for that shit. If he can get the door or use the toilet like that cat in Meet the Parents. The cat that can flush the toilet and everything else. If the puppy can do that while I'm working, oh, I'll buy you food every day. Sure, I got that.
That might be something to bring up as a slight caveat with the potty training thing, where I don't agree with using puppy pads. But I do also at the same time know there's some situations it's required.
No.
And smaller dogs often can't hold their potty as well as bigger dogs.
I don't think puppy pads really work. And the only experience I had with
Teaching
that
a dog
is
to potty in your house is all I see it as.
Yeah, my friend Charles, when they first had their dog, they used puppy pads, and that place reeked so much. It was like, what's the
Still
point?
dog potty in your house.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
You have to clean it up very frequently and clean the whole surface every single time, and
Yeah.
not a great solution to me.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I saw them do it. I'm just kind of like, it doesn't seem right to me. But
so, is there anything you want to? Anything else you think people would want to know about puppies in general? And we're not talking about breeding puppies, but
well, yeah, patience.
Patience. Like when, you know, with any puppy, you're probably going to hit a point where you just don't know if anything's getting through, but it probably is. I mean, as long as you're being consistent with it, it probably is. And, you know, as long as you're getting even the smallest results when they're young, keep going, and eventually you're going to get to a point where you're like, oh shit, that was getting through this whole time. How did that happen?
Yeah, I have to tell clients all the time that behavior work and training too, sometimes it's about shaving off thin layers of the behavior, shaving it down bit by bit, moment by moment. And I have to remind people that sand dunes that are 30 feet tall are made of little teeny grains of sand. And if you see that each of your little progresses with that dog is a single grain of sand, you will create this nice mountain of good behavior. But that's sometimes how tedious and intense it can be. And patience starts with stopping your own thoughts and reactions and literally taking the time to think. Because as humans, our brains are set up to auto react, because the brain is the most costly organ that anything it possesses. It takes so much more calories and energy to engage and logically tear things apart and think, and that's why so many people don't. They just react, and they're based on their feelings, because we're built to do that, to survive. But you have to stop that instinct in yourself to just react and literally make yourself stop and engage that brain and see things from up here. What are the mechanisms at play? What are the feelings at play? And how's the best way to communicate to this dog for this goal way over here, but all these little teeny corrections right here and now. And that's kind of how it, like a cone of a flashlight. It's a small point of light here, but it covers a wall over there. And that's how behaviors work. And you have to aim that. And little teeny corrections here make a big difference in the future. And just think of it, that's what you're doing. You're creating a development of a being and the way they think and feel and react. And it's based on how you think, feel, and react. and you want to do all that in conglomeration to be the best experiences they can have. I think I really liked what you shared, I think this morning on TikTok, about you always want you want your dogs to always have trust, and that's never broken as long as possible, that they can feel free to explore and engage you and look to you and trust you that you got it. And that's why I have to tell people that's how, because I have people like, well, how do you have a bull terrier work with aggressive dogs? Wouldn't that ruin them? They're so sensitive. And I was like, well, number one, I make sure they're old enough that their personality isn't going to be heavily influenced by incidents that may occur. And number two, I make sure no bad incidents, like seriously bad ones, occur. I make sure other dogs are muzzled. I make sure I tell that they know how to listen to me. Hey, get out of trouble, otherwise bad things are going to happen. And they know that, hey, Kyle told me not to do that, or to get back off, and when I don't, I get nipped or bit. But if I listen, nothing bad happens, so I better listen to him. So it's that relationship, that trust, that connection, that Kyle sees things, he understands what's going on, he listens to me, I can tell him when I see things, and he knows what to do about it no matter what. And to me, that's just raising a puppy or having a child, is that they can look to you, listen to you, and that you'll listen. You may not know everything, but we'll work together to make the best result. And that's puppiness, in my opinion.
Puppiness. It's a good word. Puppiness.
So you see the optimism you can have when you raise a puppy. All the work you put in makes such an impact to tune and form an individual to work perfectly with you in your life to the best of their ability, which is something you miss out on when you get an adult dog. But there's a whole nother way of getting reward when you get an adult dog. And adult dogs can adapt and change to you as well. And it's about you adapting and changing as well. Is that Clarence?
That one is Druid, but
That's Druid.
Clarence is crying.
Someone's saying, hey, I want to do something on board.
Because he's crying now.
Yeah, she's trying to tell you her puppy is having a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never owned siblings or a child and a parent, puppy or dog wise. Does that influence it?
When Druid was Nichols is Druid's aunt, so Nichols is Clarence's great aunt, and then with Druid, I wasn't sure how she was going to take to motherhood, because she was always just like this completely carefree, reckless, it doesn't matter what I do. It's fine. I can do whatever, and everybody will always love me.
I kind of got that impression.
She was like that.
That's why I heard you were breeding her. I was like, oh boy.
And when she had puppies, it was like she has taken on the mothering role, so almost to a fault. She actually would not correct him at all. She would not correct any of the puppies. If they were chewing on her too hard, she would just cry and lick them while they were chewing on her, making her
trying to request that they stop.
And she tried to nurse Clarence until he was like 4 months old, and I had to stop her.
Yeah, she had no limits.
Yeah,
that's a good-natured dog, though. It's kind of the downside of the really good-natured dog. She doesn't have her own boundaries.
No, but I've had to step in and be like, okay, you know what? That's enough. Like it would be so much nicer if she would just tell him off when he's being an absolute brat and just like not leaving her alone. She won't. She will not. She will not tell him off. So I have to step in and be like, okay, that's enough. That's too much for her. You need to calm down.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think the final thing I'll bring up about puppies is that you have to do a lot of surrogate work. Even if the mom's present, you have to go in once again, and to maintain the mentality of the pack and teach respect and teach how to read cues. Hey, if she's looking at me and she wants you to stop, or whatever you're doing is inappropriate, even if she doesn't have a problem with it. I don't want you to, I know other dogs wouldn't tolerate that. So you have to think about the future and then think about what the behavior they're doing is, if it's appropriate or not, and knowing how to interfere and to correct those kind of behaviors as well. So just all about that forethought in the future, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, if you don't have anything else to share, if you have any other questions, or Tommy does, because it sounds like Clarence needs to go potty. It's been an hour.
Everybody's.
And my dogs are getting out too. I have some boarders that don't want to go back in the crate once they come out, and Trish isn't comfortable shoving them back in there. And that's something too. If you're not comfortable pushing a dog in a situation, don't do it.
Yeah.
Especially if you can avoid it. So.
No, I think we covered a lot of good topics with puppies and everything else on this one.
I think we got a good general. I mean, without having an actual case study to do the specifics, I think we got some pretty good general information out there, especially stuff I've not heard from anyone but you or myself. So good to have
it seems like we're kind of on the same
wavelength. I think.
Yeah.
That's Booch. He's being sassy. Told you, his loudest dog I've ever owned. And he talks about everything. So I don't know. Maybe Trisha's out with some of the smaller dogs. But anyway, since our puppies are complaining, I think that'll be pretty much it. So
yeah,
this has been the Captain Spish Dog Behavior Podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, but make sure if anyone needs help, there's Gumball. If anyone needs help from me, you can contact me through text or call at 937-245-0656, or you can reach us at our website, CaptainSpishDogBehavior.com. And please like and subscribe and share and everything. That's goes for you too, Tommy and Kimberly. And we've been talking to Kimberly AF from Terrier Freak AF on YouTube and everywhere on that you can find on social media. But
pretty sure she just owns the trademark on Terrier Freak at this point. Like,
hell yeah, man.
She's probably gonna get it tatted across her shoulders.
Yeah, logo and everything. But I'm Captain Spish.
I'm Tommy.
And this has been the Captain Spish Dog Behavior. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
It was unconventional, but it worked.
And I never tell clients, just like I never tell the dogs, not to be scared.
Unfortunately, dogs don't have the ability to just talk it out with you.
See, there's all kinds of different types of bites, but I'll get into that later. What's happened here? How did this start? How can I help you? You reward good behavior and you discourage or redirect bad behavior into good behaviors. Warm talk, anecdotes, stories, get to know me, get to know them.
Yeah.
What you do or don't do with that dog, how you handle that dog, how you think and feel and what you do with your thoughts and feelings around that dog. And it's going to be for the rest of that dog's life.
You can't just unplug the corgi and plug him back in. I'm going to be open and honest about it. And that was like watching art.